Oh, excuse me. With that, disappointing loss and I guess even more disappointing open, we welcomed you to another hashtag Pucknology After Dark with the Sharks loss 5-2. I'm here with AJ, Chris, Ian, and Eric. If you want to be part of the show, please use the hashtag Pucknology After Dark and tweet at any of us to get your questions and comments read on the air. So now let's shift over to Eric on scene at SAP Center. Eric.
All right, good evening, guys. Sharks lose a tough one. I can't even remember what the score was. 5-2 to the Sharks lose. Andrew Desjardins going to have post-heel syndrome. Just a flat performance from the team. I'm, of course, joined by Gentry Alexander as part of our 10-pack. Gentry, your thoughts tonight on tonight's game?
I've taken better shits and the Sharks made efforts tonight. I don't know what the hell to say. I don't know what happened. They won 6 in a row, so they felt like, oh, we're coming home. Maybe we don't have to give a shit and the Blackhawks will be afraid of us. But there's a reason why the Blackhawks have won Stanley Cups in the recent years is because they show up for the majority of the nights and your star players show up. Patrick Kane just dissected the Sharks' defense and just made us look like amateurs tonight.
I would also have to say that with the absence of Ron and having Tennyson and Dylan and Mueller out there, it's more than certain that this team needs more help on defense more than anything right now. So if a trade has to go, it's got to be for a defenseman because it needs some help. To me, Zubris looked okay. He didn't impress, didn't disappoint. But I will say Joe Pavelski had some bad passing throughout the game. Actually passing up on an open net to pass it, and he had some horrible passing on the power play. But guys, and Gentry, oh my God, we scored a power play goal at home.
Oh my God.
It's a miracle. Now we're only 1 for 24 on the year. That's it from here in San Jose. I might catch up with you as we're driving home, but I'll send it back to the guys in the studio. Eric Landy, Ian Reed, Chris J. Depps, and the man, A.J. Strong.
Oh, I could not disagree with Gentry anymore. I really couldn't. Sometimes you just Chicago's just a better team. I don't think it was a case of the Sharks just went out there and shit the bed, or they didn't try hard enough, or I mean, you've got Braun, which completely changed up the defense. Mueller looked lost the entire time. For some reason, Hurdle was MIA for the entire third period, even though they said he was there was nothing wrong. He was on the bench. He just wasn't skating. But Chicago are the defending champs for a reason. They're a better team. I tweeted it out. You run down 1 through 6 on their defensive end, and you run down San Jose's, and you put them next to each other, you'd be hard-pressed to take a Shark in any of those spots. So I don't think it's a case of, oh, well, the Sharks, they decided to come home, and they were just, decided to lay an egg because they were home, and they were just resting on the laurels of a 6-0 thing. I think that's ridiculous.
I completely agree. That's great, radio style right there. But actually, I agree with you. And y'all have been seeing me pop off on Twitter. These problems were there all road trip long. The Sharks got outpossessed several times. Their defense looked shaky a lot. But the difference is it didn't bite them in the ass. Today, it bit them in the ass because Chicago, you make mistakes with Chicago, even smaller ones. Because, they were making big mistakes and losing to bad teams. You make small mistakes and against good teams, you're going to lose. And it's pretty obvious the blue line is not good. I mean, breaking news, right? The bottom 6 is still weak sauce. And I said, 5 of the last 6 cups were won by LA and by Chicago. What do those two have in common? Deep, strong blue lines and bottom 6s that make an impact, and not just impact as in, hey, start random fight from a fourth liner impact.
Ian, good evening. What's your initial take on the game?
Very similar to what everyone else's is. Yeah, a lot of complaining about, the Sharks being cursed at home and all this silliness, but I mean, the real problem is that you take out, the defense is a house of cards. You remove a card, and it's bad news, right? Having not having Braun in the lineup hurt them a lot. Braun's actually been, in my opinion, pretty good this year. Like underrated good this year. Doesn't get a whole lot of talk when he does good. If he screws up, you'll hear about it though. And but they missed his puck moving tonight. And that the bottom pair was awful.
Yeah, yeah, and I just want to give a special shout out to everybody who upvoted on Reddit and got the word out. We really appreciate it, and any extra viewers is always great to have, and love to hear your questions in the chat or on Twitter. Use the hashtag Pucknology After Dark, and talk to any one of us. So we've got William Vogel. He says, "How come the Sharks were terrible in the D zone coverage, face-offs, passing, and shooting at home in particular?" Anybody?
I'll start. They weren't actually that great at those things on the road either. But on the road, they were playing weaker teams, and honestly, they got a lot of better bounces. Like on the road, the goaltending, I believe, was close to 95%. Their shooting percentage was something like 12%. I'm not saying it's all luck, but the breaks went their way a lot on that road trip. And now tonight, against a good team, they don't match up, honestly. I don't think they're talented enough, really, to, if you play them 10 times, they're probably going to lose 7 of those. They can win a few if they play great games and they get some bounces, but they're not as good as the Blackhawks. And, yeah, I said smaller mistakes will cost you against good teams.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. That is the case. And, hey, you got to give kudos to the Blackhawks. They held the Sharks without a shot on goal for the first 13 minutes of this game. I mean, that kind of says it all right there. I mean, the Sharks, I don't think that they necessarily, quote-unquote, came out flat, but Chicago, as we said, they're just a better team right now. There's a reason why they're holding the big shiny thing right now, and you saw why tonight. They're just a stronger team right now, and granted, we don't have full squad, and maybe down the line when we see them in February, I'm looking on the list, and we play them at United Center on the 9th. Maybe it's different when we have Torres and Couture and Braun, and who knows at that point who else. By that point, maybe Doug Wilson will have figured out how to, or at least figured out that Tennyson and Mueller are not the answer on that fourth or on the third pairing. Dylan is not a second pair guy. He is a third pair guy at best. So
yeah, agreed. I guess for me at least, what I took away from that game was the Sharks looked a little flat-footed. It looked like they had no answer for Chicago's speed. It looked like you saw a lot of players gliding in the defensive zone, not pushing their feet, not being aggressive to the puck and allowing Chicago to kind of dangle in front of them. Really just kind of lackluster in the mental part. I mean, you had 12 giveaways in that first period. 12. And this is a Shark team that we routinely see under the 12 to 15 mark in a game. And you have 12 in the first period. That tells me that mentally they weren't prepared. And I think that tonight it was more of a mental block than anything else.
Yeah, I disagree because I think part of it is Chicago puts pressure on you 4 lines long. You don't get 2 lines of relief like when the Sharks are playing. They bring pressure every single line, and I think part of that, I think the Sharks were caught a little off guard because you look at every team they played in the last 6, none have iced a team as talented top to bottom as Chicago, and I think that didn't catch them off guard.
Yeah, and I think I don't think we disagree here. I just think that how I describe it is you're describing pressure, and the way that I describe that is them moving their feet a lot and them playing a much more aggressive kind of style on the Sharks, dictating to the Sharks' play versus the Sharks dictating to others. And that road trip, we did see the Sharks have a lot of time in their own defensive end.
But I think
And
it's
I
fair
think the thing is, though, they can't really dictate, though, to Chicago. This is what I'm saying. It's a talent issue. They don't have the talent to dictate to Chicago. Like, I
In
think they have
in
enough
your
talent to dictate to a team a little better than them, but not
Mhm.
Chicago. Sorry, go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, no, sorry. And the thing is too, though, is you have to remember, like, when you're just to get back to the original question about, again at home. Don't forget that when they were at home before and we were losing all those games, again, defense, house of cards. Paul Martin is not playing, and everything is junk. Tonight we have no Braun. Everything is junk. I mean, it's not just it's not that there's suddenly a problem on that and playing in SAP. It's the fact that the games that we have played in SAP, the defense has been shorthanded, and that's definitely affected their play.
Yeah, and I think like I said before, the Sharks just didn't have an answer for that speed game that Chicago brought, and you could really see that with Matt Tennyson not making great plays, trying to drive the puck through the middle of the slot, and oh my God, Kane's right there picking up any kind of loose change. You've got Mueller who just can't make a quick decision with the puck, and so then you've got Blackhawks raining down on you.
And you've got number 44 screening Jones.
right, and you just can't play like that. You have to be on your best game to play Chicago. And the times that the Sharks have won it against Chicago, you had all three phases of the team firing on all cylinders. You had the goaltending being, handling itself. You had the defense really clamping down in their own end, and then you had the offense being able to weather the storm that is Chicago, but then being able to jab back and retaliate back, and we just didn't see a lot of that. The only time they had an answer for Chicago was on the power play, and that's because Chicago was a man down. So
Yeah, could you imagine how much more this could have gotten out of hand had the penalty kill not been perfecto tonight?
Oh, and had Jones not made some super saves in the first period, I think we could have been easily looking at a 4-0 game.
They could have blown out.
Partway through the third, Ross McKinnon tweeted out a great stat. 15 of the Sharks' 24 shots at the time had come on the power play. So their power play is looking a lot healthier. Like, even the one time they didn't score is looking a lot healthier. So that is a plus out of tonight. But their even strength game was terrible. Mm-hmm. And I think you were saying, like, I think we are in agreement here, Eric, because I agree that when they're on their A game, they can play against Chicago and win. But that's what I'm saying is if they play 10 times, they lose 7 of those because no team plays their A game every single night. Like, and I'm talking like wherever if you're talking passing grades here, so you're playing an A, B, C, or D. No, actually not D. Sorry, A, B, or C. Most teams are somewhere between A minus and C plus most nights, and occasionally you have nights where you're playing really well, and that seems to me the only way they can beat Chicago is if they're on their A game, and Chicago isn't, because all things equal, Chicago will win almost every time. At least the way the rosters are right now.
Yeah, Chicago's B game will beat most teams, on a nightly basis. So
yeah, and this is how the rosters are right now. Not saying that's how it'll always be, but the way the Sharks rosters right now, I don't see a way they can consistently beat a team that good.
Yeah, and for me, I think when you saw the Sharks really kind of go to work and really have any kind of success 5-on-5 was at the latter point of the second period and the beginning of the third period, and you could see a marked difference in them using the body and them really hammering those defensive players from the Blackhawks in their own end and giving them some problems. I felt that they were in and out on playing physical against the Blackhawks, and of course you have to lay a perfect hit on Chicago, or else you're just going to make yourself look like a fool and take yourself out of the play. And I think that's probably why they were a little tentative to take the body. But I felt when they were taking the body, they were driving possession a little bit better, and I think they were more aggressive in the offensive zone. What do you guys think?
Well, slightly. To follow up on Chris's stat there, it's saying the Sharks had 29 shots on goal, but 5-on-5, it was 22-14 in favor of the Hawks. And getting back to the Hawks being the better team, they're 10-3-2 in their last 15 versus the Sharks, and 3-1-1 in their last 5 in San Jose. So it's just, remember all those years of Doug Wilson? Wasn't it Lombardi who used to kind of emulate the New Jersey Devils, and then Wilson tried to emulate the Red Wings? Maybe it's time for them to start emulating the Blackhawks. Just
First step, fire the coach down in the farm system there and start actually drafting defensemen. Because, like I said, that's one of the hallmarks of Chicago during their run here. I mean, how many great defensemen have you seen go through that? I mean, I could probably list 6 just off the top of my head. Forget about all the minor player defensemen, but there Buffuglen. Then there's Duncan Keith. I mean, there's a whole bunch of guys.
Jalmerson,
yeah.
Seabrook, and then Oduya, and then you look at Nick Leddy, who is now a superstar defenseman in New York. And who would have thought that? He wasn't even good enough to crack the top 5 in Chicago, and now he's a superstar defenseman for.
This is a team that got rid of Brian Campbell, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. Like their 5th and 6th guys are good enough to crack our top 4, no problem. Most years, and that's what I'm saying. That's the fundamental problem with this team, and Ian described it as a house of cards. Even when they're all healthy, it's shaky as hell. But you remove one piece in the top 4, and it goes from shaky to borderline disastrous, and even disastrous on some nights. That's the fundamental problem to me, is that their blue line is just not good. And that's why even after winning 6 in a row, I was like, I don't see this team doing any better than making the playoffs, maybe winning a round. They don't have the blue line to go anywhere.
Well, the Sharks haven't won a game without their top 4 defensemen in this season. When Martin was out, lost every game. Braun out, boom, lose.
I think you also.
About that, actually. You looked that up?
Huh?
Did you look that up? Because I was actually thinking of that along those lines. I wasn't.
No, it's just. I'm just going off the top of my head. Like, I remember every game that Martin was out, they lost. Tonight, Braun was out, they lost. As far as I know, Vlasic's played every game, and Burns has played every game. So, but I just know that those are the top 4, and I know that whenever one of those top 4 have been out, they lost.
Yeah, I would have guessed. Yeah, I figured that they're probably near perfect with them, and then pretty bad without them. I would have guessed off the top of my head, but yeah, you're probably right, or very close. Anyway.
No, I think we also have to really start to put the pressure on the AHL and the development system here. You look at Trevor Van Riemsdyk, and you look at the kind of prospect he was touted as, not very high at all, and really, could have been an AHL journeyman, and Chicago has somehow made him into a 5th, 6th defenseman, and really has brought him into the system, and he's really developed and really kind of blossomed, and the Sharks have yet to do that. I mean, the Sharks have their defensemen that they've brought in were either A, from a different farm system, or B, spent a lot more time in the NCAA, or C, they just brought them up as rookies. So you look at Vlasic, was brought up as a rookie. You look at Braun, he was NCAA. You look at Martin, wasn't in our system. Burns wasn't in our system. You look at Mueller, we'll say a hybrid because he was brought up early.
Brought too soon.
Yeah, and then Tennyson. Look at Tennyson. Look at the homegrown product. It's a defenseman who is, to put it mildly, lackluster in his own end, and really just kind of devoid of offensive talent. I mean, he makes a decent first pass through the neutral zone, but in the offensive zone, he's just trigger shy.
Well, we're all kind of preaching to the choir at this point. This is stuff that we've gone over ad nauseum. The D sucks. Everything after the top 4, the whole thing is suspect. It's overpaid. It's AHLers at best. Was there anything positive you saw out of tonight? Was Zubris, anything there that you were kind of like, well, at least it got Goldie the hell out of the building? But was there anything you saw on a positive level other than Brown fanning on that ridiculous breakaway?
the power play for me, I mentioned that already once, but like it scored, which is good, but also it was dangerous. Most of those attempts, I mean, say we talk about how bad it is that their even strength shots were terrible and most of their shots were on the power play. The flip side of that is that means their power play was doing stuff. They were getting shots on goal. They were getting dangerous chances. They only got one, but they easily could have had 2 or 3, to be perfectly honest. So that was a encouraging sign, is that the power play is coming around. And I don't do this whole at home or away. I think it's probably been just more luck of the draw that it ended up the way it did. But it is a good sign that it's coming around at home or away or whatever you want to say. But that was the positive for me, is the power play kind of coming alive.
Yeah, and you also saw the power play kind of come alive when Ward stepped into that power play unit. Take out Vlasic, and oh my gosh, you have a power play that's slightly competent. Ian?
Yeah, I mean, positive. I think that the fact that Marlowe's still putting up points is a positive, because Marlowe's a streaky guy. So if he goes cold, he generally goes cold for a while. So it was nice to see him get that nice goal tonight. That kind of had us back in the game a little bit before we coughed it up again. But yeah, we're talking good. So I'm gonna say Patrick Marleau scoring.
I thought that Burns played a decent game. I didn't think he was too defensively liable, although the call on him for a tripping
Which one?
Yeah, which one? The tripping penalty when he took out the legs of who was that? Was that Kruger?
I think so.
Yeah, it was Kruger.
And he definitely touched the puck first and then took the legs out. The ref didn't see it that way. So the penalty kill in my mind was probably the shining thing out of this. I guess another positive is LA lost in a shootout, so they're only 1 point above us in the standings. So that's a positive.
A lot of hockey left to play.
Oh yeah, definitely a lot of hockey. It's just what, for me, that the takeaway is this was a disappointing game, because it's disappointing because you didn't see a better mental effort out of the Sharks. You didn't see them kind of change opinion about them and going into a Thanksgiving break, and how they've always seemed to let the foot off the gas, so to speak. So overall, I kind of felt the myriad of emotion of, being angry and then being sad and then now just being kind of apathetic towards it, because it's just like, why did I expect any different?
Well,
yeah, I mean, part of that thing about going into the Thanksgiving break on a, kind of taking the foot off the gas is they almost always play the Hawks going to the Thanksgiving break, and the Hawks have been freaking good. So, I mean, I'm going to say that's going to color the opinion a bit, because if you're always playing one of the best teams of the last decade going into the break, it's very easy to look bad going into the break. I mean, this is no 2010 7-1 loss with 3 shorthanded goals against. But I agree, it was disappointing, but yeah. I don't let it color my opinion too much. I mean, I was saying even like a couple days ago after the win, I was like, don't let this 6-game win streak fool you. This team still has a lot of problems, and we've covered them pretty well here. But they say winning is the ultimate deodorant, and that's so true. Absolutely. Because I was getting people like, stop being so negative. Like, I'm just saying, don't chasing results is not always the best thing. You can do the wrong thing and get the right result, but long term that's not going to happen.
No, and I think you looked at the advanced stats, and you could kind of gauge the health of the team and the health of the wins. You can see what a healthy win is and what isn't a healthy win. They always say that when your goaltender starts to steal games that you're not supposed to win, you're going to start entering into a losing streak, because it's just not sustainable. Sorry, Ian, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, when talking about games that led up to this one, I mean, if you look back at the Columbus game, which we ended up pulling out in the win, I mean, it kind of started very similar to the way this one started. And you can't pull it's different pulling a game like that against Columbus and then pulling it against the Chicago, and it's going to come back and bite you. And obviously, no one wants to think about that because, well, we won the Columbus game, so yay. But really, I mean, it very similar pitfalls for the Sharks in both games I found.
No, you're absolutely right.
There's a saying McClellan used to use that your game is getting sick before you start losing. And I always thought it was a funny saying, but it is kind of true. You see signs that the possession on the road trip, it was a little up and down. Honestly, I think if you look at all the numbers and you figure what actually happened versus the results, they probably were good enough to win 4 of 6 on that road trip. And I think they got a few more bounces and managed to get all of them. And good on them. They took advantage of their opportunities. But there were you could see some cracks in the armor there. And then when you come home and play the defending champs, and then you have a big injury to Braun and like that, that's the perfect setup for you to kind of get a rude awakening that your game still needs some work.
Yeah, yeah, and of course we must also mention that we have to color this talk through the prism of one of your best defensive forwards is still out. He masks a lot of the defensive mistakes that the defense makes, and really, you have to be pretty impressed about the growth that they've done on the road without him. With that being said, you can't stake all of the hopes and dreams upon Logan Couture, how far this hockey team wants to go on Logan Couture, because let's face it, when he gets back, because, I have him kind of coming in back in sometime in December, maybe December 1st or the December 4th game, and that might be a little optimistic, but he's going to take at least a week to get back into shape again, and, you kind of, at this point, you kind of have to temper your expectations for what he brings back. So overall, I guess in this kind of stretch run up to the break, the Thanksgiving break, we can be, optimistic that we've had a good record in spite of the injuries, but still it's shown that the depth is still an issue. It's been plaguing this team for years.
Hey, speaking of depth, where the fuck were Hurdle and Wingles in the third period? Anybody know?
I tweeted at Kevin Kurz and I said, Kurz, is Hurdle's hurt, or is he injured? And he's like, no, they've both been on the bench and didn't get a shift in the third. I didn't think he was playing a bad game either. I thought he was doing okay.
Neither do I. But
wait, I'm sorry, that was Hurdle and Wingles?
Hurdle and Wingles.
Yep.
Holy crap! I didn't even notice that there. But there's a message sent. But these youngsters haven't been playing as good as they have in the past, and this is gonna be something that they got to send to them, because I know they're kind of in the leadway where they can't go through to the Barracuda without going through waivers, but at the same time they can't be complacent.
Well, Wingles I can understand sending a message to. I don't understand what message you're sending to Hurdle, because I've had no issue with his play in the last 5 games. I thought he's been one of the guys that's been out there working harder than most. So that was a little bit perplexing to me. A couple of quick funny notes to try to lighten the levity here a little bit. It was an announced sellout. A tickets sold sellout, but of course, just as I believe we predicted on after the Columbus game, this would be a sellout, but there would not be 17,562 butts in the seats, which is pretty much exactly what happened tonight. But the best part of it, the Sharks being down 3-1, just before it's 3-2. Bringing down 3-1, because I had to sync up radio with the TV because I couldn't stomach the guys on NBCSN. Hearing Dan Ruzanowski literally say, it's electric in this building right now, and Maley going, yeah, people are on the edge of their seats. Now, Maley is about as electric as the Amish, So he's just like, he's just like got such a dulcet, he's like the
Monotone.
he's like the anti Doc Emmerich. Like he sounds like he's stoned half the time, but the fact that he's like, oh yeah, everybody here, they're on the edge of their seats. Meanwhile, in the background, you can hear every single pass because it's so quiet. So it was making me wonder, like, do they have like a little notepad in front of them? Like every once in a while, they got to say, "Hey, it's electric," or "Edge of their seats," or "It's spectacular here," and the fans are going excited. Whatever it was, I was, huh?
Oh, I was gonna say, there were some moments where we were getting into it, especially after once Marlowe scored to make it 3-2. The place
But
was getting on there, and then of course, the quickly turned over and set it for post-heel syndrome for Andrew Desjardins.
Yeah, but it was about
but
2 minutes before Marlowe scored, and it was like you could hear
no, yeah,
everything but the crowd.
it was pretty tough. Gotta say that, yeah, it wasn't a sellout for people in the seats. It was pretty full compared to like the Florida game and such. But there were still obvious, few rows empty tonight. So I don't know if those were paid and not sold or not used or something.
Oh no,
I'm not quite
it's
sure.
exactly that. No, it's paid. They're paid for. Those tickets were sold. They just weren't used. That's
Right.
all it was.
I will say this. I just retweeted a tweet from the Chicago Blackhawks Twitter that they were very thankful for the best fans in the world, and it was a shot of the Shark Tank when the Blackhawks scored, and there is a boatload of Hawks fans celebrating, and obviously they're standing up and celebrating, and they were all around the arena tonight. It was pretty bad. I kind of expected it since it was, original six, defending Cup champs. But yikes! I
definitely see a lot of red.
Yeah, you could definitely. There wasn't like the little pockets that you see here and there for maybe LA or Anaheim. But it was right up there when Detroit visits, or maybe when Toronto visits. It was pretty bad. Thankfully, they didn't try to take over with the chants or anything, but that would have been just as bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think one, you kind of look at the success that the Chicago Blackhawks have had and what fans they've made outside of Chicago. I think two, you look at a franchise that right now isn't treating its fans very well, and so when you get a mixture of the Sharks losing ticket sales and you get the defending Stanley Cup champions who've got a huge legion of fans, whether they're new or old, coming in, you're going to see a lot of opposing jerseys. And
another thing too is another sports team playing up the road on 880, who is 16-0 and are defending NBA champions, and they're the toast of the town. I mean, I don't think I ever seen the Sharks with a 10-game plus winning streak get as much news prep and kudos from the media like the Warriors have the last few nights. And sure, they deserve it.
But you can't really compare hockey and basketball.
And not only that.
Not when the Warriors have been irrelevant up until the last couple of years, though.
Eric,
they haven't been irrelevant locally, though.
Okay, guys. Before we descend into a little bit of madness, I think we also got to put the primer that was an NBA record, right? That's not some rinky-dink 10-win streak kind of deal. It's a NBA record for the history of the NBA. So I think we've got to put it through that prism. The Sharks have never gone for an NHL win streak record, and quite frankly have had a losing streak NHL record. So I can understand why the media bias is tilted towards the Warriors, and you saw a little bit of stuff about the Sharks here and there with their 6-game road trip, but of course it's nowhere near what the NBA is, and the NBA is bigger. It's a bigger sports league and garners more attention, and I think that's kind of something we've kind of come to expect in the Bay Area. I don't think it's changing.
Well, and AG, you can back me up on this. You know, 6-game winning streak, everybody would be going nuts over if it were any of the other teams. But I'm sorry, and the Sharks. This is why the media doesn't give a shit about you, is because you go in, you win 6 in a row, you have a chance to shine on national television with a quote unquote sellout crowd, and you go and lay an egg on the team that pretty much owned you tonight. I mean, yeah, the Hawks brought their A game and kicked ass, but at the same time, I don't think the Sharks helped themselves at all by keeping up with Chicago. They look very slow.
They could have beaten Chicago. Right. They could have beaten Chicago 10-0 tonight, and the media wouldn't have called them the toast of the town any more than they did yesterday.
Right.
That has nothing to do with it. It's because it's hockey and it's basketball. The two are not the same. The two are not. You can't compare them in this market.
And not only that,
basketball is just way bigger in this market.
And not only that, but you also have the fact that they've done it. They've gone all the way and they've won, and they did it last year, and they did it in spite of playing a Cavaliers team that a lot of people didn't think that they were going to beat. But this is not NBA talk. This is hockey talk. Sharks.
I have something to bring it back here. One last point on this is I told the story recently, but I was recently in Illinois, and they were telling me 7 years ago you couldn't give away Blackhawks tickets. So just keep that in mind. Winning cures everything.
No, it does. It does. And you know what the sad thing is? The Blackhawks before, let's say, 2008 were irrelevant. You know what? People just didn't care in their marketplace. When they got Taves and Kane, then you started to see the trickle of fans come back in, and then when they won their first Stanley Cup, it was just a love fest. And
this is a market. This is a market that has supported a baseball team for 100 years without coming close to winning a championship.
Yes, but the thing you have to keep in mind too is that once Wirt's kid took over, that's a big part of that as well, because under old man Wirtz, that team, they made it very difficult to be a fan of that team with the limited TV and ticket prices that were stupid, and the old man Wirtz was under that era. The Blackhawks made it very difficult for you to be a fan of their team, and having the son take over, and obviously getting Taves Kane, winning fixes everything, but they also became very much more, they started throwing back to like the history. You started seeing guys like Bobby Hull around the rink and stuff like that. So there's a lot of ownership stuff that goes with Chicago not having fans in the building.
Yeah, true. It's funny you say that, dude. Big shout out to NBCSN for completely missing Jamie Baker dropping the puck on TV. Good, well done, guys. It's not like Sharks fans wanted to see that or anything.
Let's kind of circle back. Let's talk about the coverage, and I was watching, of course, on NBCSN here in San Diego, and that's the national coverage. Ian, what media were you watching tonight?
I watched the NBC feed.
NBC feed, Chris?
I think it was the only one that was available, bro.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the only feed that was available. I was watching on the Game Center.
There's a reason why we had to listen to those idiots doing play-by-play in color tonight.
well, that's right. So what did you guys think overall of the broadcast team tonight?
Well, I stopped listening.
I thought they were incredibly hard.
Yeah, I stopped listening after the first. I'm like, wow, this is going to be one of the few times where I actually go through the trouble of syncing up the internet audio to KFox to go with it, because I just couldn't take it anymore.
For me, the moment that said it all was after the empty net goal. It's like, Hawks win, all excitedly. Like, yeah. You're showing your colors right there, bro. Like, I know what your job is, but you see, you're on national television tonight. And I would think that would be unprofessional for Andy Hahn to do the opposite.
Yeah, and I've never we've all seen Hahn and Remenda do national games, and it never even come close to that. Like,
even
it's
Hahn
amazing. But it's amazing how much they go out of their way to not be homers, where the Chicago guys clearly did not give a fuck.
Well, not only that, but
it's professionalism.
Yeah, and you know what? What's kind of sorry too, and I got into it a little bit with Generation X-wing. He was saying that this particular broadcaster, what's the guy's play-by-play, Pat Foley or something Foley?
Pat Foley.
Pat Foley. He is actually a Hall of Famer and a Lester Patrick Award winner for broadcasting. And I got to say, whoever's on that Hall of Fame selection committee has their head so far up their asses, it's not even funny, because first off, the guy's nasally voice is just annoying, plain annoying to listen to. Second, the guy has the biggest biggest hard-on for Kane that I had ever seen. I mean, after the first goal, he didn't even say the goal scorer's name. He said, "And Kane has his 17-point game point streak." And it's just like, okay, I get it. You like Kane, but you don't even announce the goal scorer first?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just...
It's like he was not on national television. It was like he's doing his local broadcast. And to me, like, he may be great at his local broadcast, but that shouldn't cut it for national television.
Yeah, and I mean, I love Eddie Olczyk, and I think he's a good color commentator, and I think when you get him away from Pat Foley, he's very very complimentary of each team, and can break down each team, and does not show any kind of bias.
Yeah,
but you get those two together.
This is the thing that really kind of tells it for me. How many times have you listened to East Coast guys call a West Coast game and they fuck up name after name after name of players on the West Coast teams? Yet,
you hear Nieto's name?
Oh, Nieto. Nieto. And I'm like, are you fucking for real with this?
Are you just trying to troll? I thought are you just trying to troll us? Like, how do you come up with Nieto?
Yeah, well, Jesus. I mean, but it just goes to show they're just so mailing it in and not paying attention to what happens out here. Whereas you hear Hahn and Bakes and Ruzanowski, they're fucking spot on.
Heck, Ruzi even goes to the trouble of getting the Russian pronunciations right, and I'm talking the real Russian.
I think Ruzanowski and Emmerich are the ones who actually put like the NHL's pronunciation guide together for everybody. So, and let's not forget our favorite, Evgeny Nabokov.
No, I loved Yevgeny Nabokov.
That's it, Nabokov.
Yeah.
And I wonder how they come up with these ones. Like, just go with the phonetic spelling, and that'll get you right more often than not, even with the European names. To me, it just comes down to professionalism. Like, I'm sure these great guys are great at their job, but
right.
If you're on national television, be objective and actually spend enough time to care to know something about the other team. It just seems to me like basic professionalism.
How does the roster not have the names phonetically spelled next to it?
Right.
You know I mean?
There's two things. They have the media guide that shows the pronunciation on them, and also it's not like these guys don't talk to the opposing team's announcers on game day at the morning skate. I mean, come on. Randy could have told these guys the same thing, and come on.
Yeah,
I mean,
we could
that
go
would be
through...
like us getting killed for saying Halger Jermierson.
Yeah, no, we could go
Jonathan
through.
Toad.
Yeah, we could go through an entire list of roster names here, or probably. In fact, you know what? That'd probably be like a funny homework assignment for us to like bring to the next party, is to like just go through the
pronunciation guide.
Well, 25 years of the Sharks roster and find like the top 10 mangled Sharks, the names that have just been mangled by other people who didn't give enough of a shit to learn the pronunciation. Yeah, but yeah, hearing Yevgeny, and then at one point you had announcers call it, well, he wants to be called John.
John
Nabokov. And you're like, oh my fucking God, are you serious?
But guys, nothing beats the San Diego Sharks by Brian Englund.
Oh, that was great.
conference semifinal or conference final.
That was so awesome.
San Diego Sharks.
Yeah. Hey, I'm getting an NHL team here, and it's my team. Oh my God.
So Generation X points out that actually they were feeding the CSN Chicago feed to the national feed. So in a way, they were doing their local broadcast.
Right.
But here's the thing: is though Han and Baker have done that before, and Han and Remenda have done that before.
And
where
they
they were
know
like,
the
yeah,
fucking
we're on,
difference.
yeah, like they've said like, hey, we're on national television tonight. Kind of even like telling us like, don't and those nights they go out of their way. You can tell it's different because they go out of their way to actually talk about the other player. I mean, they'll like do little infomercials for the other players, practically like, oh,
Hell.
this guy, blah blah
Hell,
blah.
Randy
And like
and
my
Drew-
roommate is like gets angry. He's like, why do they like the other team?
Randy
Traitors.
and Drew
I'm like,
did games for the Kings, national games for the Kings,
Yeah.
and I know that the Kings fans did not like it because of course it's the Sharks broadcasters,
Boo
but-
fucking who? Crying to your cup, bitches.
but I thought that they did a fairly good job, and they know the players because we play them quite a bit. They didn't mangle any names, and they were pretty professional and gave a lot of compliments to the Kings and just the way that they handled the organization and stuff. So, it's NBC shitting on the Sharks. They normally give them the low end of the totem pole. They forced the Sharks to puck drop at 7 o'clock instead of 7:30. Did any of you guys notice that the Sharks were pushed up to 7 o'clock and then pushed back to at 7:15 after the Islanders, of course, ran a little long, because who wouldn't have guessed scheduling issues with NBC?
Actually, they got their first shot on goal right around like 7:35.
Yeah. No, I get them moving the game up to 7 o'clock, a national game, because you want to at least try to get some ratings from the East Coast. You want the game going off at 9 o'clock instead of 9:30 in Chicago, like trying to help that out. That I get. For me, though, like I've expressed after the Columbus game, I don't understand why you have the early game starting at 4:30 and not 4. That's the thing that chaps my ass. Or start it at, like, as you had said, 4:15. Do a little bit of pregame, blah, blah, blah. Boom, puck hits the ice at 4:10, 4:12, 4:15 or whatever. That way you're just damn near guaranteed to have the early game cleaned up by the time you're ready to cut in to the Sharks game. And tonight, it was another case of them just getting it right down to the wire.
I think that's what they want, though.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of like, let's just sit there and fill and just, do the empty head talking stuff. Let's give you highlights from the early games. They're trying to make it kind of like a football show in between football games, like the morning game and the afternoon game. I get that, but it's also a case of, look, hockey fans are used to a particular presentation, and especially when you're going to do something at home that's somewhat special. I'm not saying, Jamie Baker was only here for 3 years. I'm not, and aside from the Detroit goal, really, was he that significant to the Sharks at that point? It's debatable. But it's kind of like, well, he's part of the broadcast group. He's part of that group. So, okay, fine, you want to honor him. I got no problem with that. But it would have been cool. He is known for having the most important goal in Sharks history up to this point. So at least, show you it's going to take you. It's going to be that distressing to at least show that part on TV. It's like, come on. I thought that was a little bit of a slap in the face, especially when we see countless bad national anthems.
Yeah, and we have Patrick M chiming in. He says, to put it bluntly, you are spoiled with one of the best play-by-play teams out there.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll have anybody that will disagree with you, and I don't think you'll have anybody that says, it's Randy. We aren't spoiled with Randy, but the thing that I would want from a national broadcast is a unbiased and unopinionated play-by-play of the game. I don't want any Sharks bias. I don't want any Chicago bias. Just give me the facts of the game. Give me some ancillary stats, and we're good.
And we would have had that tonight. We would have had that tonight had Hahn and Baker called the game on the national level.
All right, hear me out for a second. So I mean,
Fuck
it's
no,
not
put
like
him on mute.
oh jeez. It's not
Okay, Tony Reale.
it's not like though. I mean, it's national. There's always seems to be like some bias in national television. Like even up here, like you're obviously going to get on national television nights. You're still going to get bias towards the Canadian teams. I mean, it's always going to be there. The solution is to stop having these regional teams do the game. Well, yeah, and the Dallas, one of the Dallas announcers, Razor, said this in a column that he wrote, and it's basically he's right. What they need to do is they need to take one guy from one team that works for that's under the CSN umbrella and pair them with the other guy and have two guys, one from each team, and then let them go.
Yeah, no, I mean, this was my solution. I said today, I was talking to one of the production ladies out of San Jose, and I said, you know what? You know what would have been a good broadcast? Randy Hahn with Eddie Olczyk, because I like Eddie.
Absolutely.
I think his voice is good for TV. He can be Chicago biased, but he can also present some really good facts for the Sharks because he was complimentary to the Sharks players. And have Randy Hahn, and I wonder if those guys would have some good chemistry because I just feel like having that pair would have been way better than having this play-by-play guy who was definitely wearing red-colored glasses today.
Absolutely.
I would take that up until the first guy mispronounces a name.
Well, the thing is though, it's also the all-star effect though of you never get to see those guys together. You know, like you like watching the All-Star game partially because you get to see like Patrick Kane and Patrick Marleau playing together on the same line or something like that. Like you get that rare chance to see someone like you really like Randy Hahn and another guy Eddie Olczyk that you really like together, and you just don't get to see that really. Like that would there's like a coolness factor there too of some of like the matchups you could create there, and that would be kind of cool.
Right. It's kind of like how the last game of last season happened, where they used Randy Hahn, and then they had Jim Fox. And I thought that worked out pretty cool because you got it to see from both perspectives, and it was a national game. So you kind of got knowledge from both teams right on with it, and you kind of got that information that you usually get from a local broadcast on a national level, especially in the Western Conference. That's huge.
We have Laurel. I just want a quick shout out to Laurel. Bring Drew back. Just had to get that in there.
Hey, that's AJ's line.
Stop it.
But you know what? Getting back to the timing of the games, Hockey Night in Canada has gotten it pretty much down for like the last 60 years, where they have a 4 p.m. game, and then their doubleheader starts at 7. And for some reason, us here in the lower 48 can't figure that out. It just seems weird to me.
The thing that we haven't pointed out, which is like the elephant in the room, that I think is the funniest part of us talking about, like, oh, the Chicago guys was so biased and so the red-colored glasses and blah, blah, blah. The fact that we can, you know how we can really hold on to, you know what? Randy and Drew were some of the most unbiased guys in the world. You know how we can prove that point? The fact that one of them was essentially fired for being too truthful about the team, for not being a teal drum beater.
Yeah.
Yep, that is very true.
Yeah. And again, we have Gen X chiming in again. He says, "Ma'am, these guys are paid to be biased for Christ's sake. They are team employees."
That's right.
And I agree. You know what?
No, hold on. Not for every team, though. As far as I know, Drew is not paid by the Edmonton Oilers. No, he has already come out and said that. He is paid by Rogers. Yeah. He's not paid by the Oilers.
No, true.
He said that on radio here on KNBR that he is no longer a team employee because Tom Tolbert even asked him, like, so how long till you get fired there for speaking your mind? And Drew just kind of laughed and said basically what AJ just said. He's a Rogers employee. He's not a team employee anymore, so he can rip the Oilers to his heart's content. He could do whatever he wants as long as his employer's happy.
Yeah, no, I just want to say that's okay for a regional sports broadcast, but you can't have these guys being blasted on national television to all corners of the U.S. and be that biased. I don't care that they're Blackhawks employees, and that doesn't really matter. I know it's a conflict of interest and all that, but at least kind of have the wherewithal to pull back a little bit on your Chicago fandom. I mean, because Christ, for every time they had something about Patrick Kane, it's just like, oh my God, again with this? It's just like.
But you think that the Chicago announcers are bad? They've got nothing on Boston.
Oh well.
Yeah, and I don't mind them being a little homerish. Don't want to beat this around too much, but I understand it's hard to completely shed all your biases. But if they can just kind of tone it down. I'm hearing an echo. Has someone got? I think it's AJ. Somebody mute AJ. Okay, sorry. I understand if there's a little bias, that's always going to creep through. But yeah, it's when you just really you're wearing it right on your sleeve, and you're not even going through the trouble to learn the names of the opposing players. That to me sinks below the basic level of professionalism.
Yeah. All right. So let's put this train back on the Sharks talk a little bit more. So we got a question from Ryan. I think he's a first timer. He might have
First time, long time.
Yeah, maybe first time, long time. What would it take for both Wingles and Tierney to get going? That's a good question. I think for me at least, I got to see Wingles shoot more. He seems to be a little trigger shy this year, which in previous years that wasn't really his MO. But this year he seems a little bit more focused on hitting the body versus taking the shot. Tierney has just been saddled with horrible line mates, and he could only sustain Mike Brown for so long before Mike Brown is going to anchor Tierney a little bit. So I think with Dinah Zubaris coming on, I think it's going to be better. But what do you guys think?
I mostly agree with you. I do wonder if Wingles is injured though, because some of his play seems a little timid to me, which usually that indicates there might be an injury we don't know about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean Wingles. Yeah, I agree. He has to get he has to get pucks on the net. He's been, but because he should be 20 goal guy in my opinion.
Easy.
As far as Tierney goes, yeah, you know what? I think that when everything kind of fell apart, they pushed Tierney up to the third line, even when it clearly wasn't working, and I think they just demoed his confidence a little. And you got to remember, this is a guy that's basically jumped to the NHL. Like he's done a little bit of time in the Barracuda, but he's basically jumped, and it makes me a little bit nervous because I really like Chris Tierney that he's lost his confidence twice in as many seasons.
Sure.
Yeah, I feel like he could use more AHL seasoning. It's just I don't know if we can really send him down right now with how little depth they have.
We also had Slushy Jake chime in with kind of a trade idea. Do you guys think, with the salary cap and the way that we're kind of up against it, do you guys see a Raffi Torres being shipped out when he comes back?
I don't see any way another team would trade for him. I was saying recently, if there's a scenario where they could cut him to save space, I wouldn't be surprised if they took that option. But yeah, I don't know.
I think this is the last year of his deal, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
so I think they just write it out. They see at the very least they'll see what they can get from him from when he comes back. And yes, I got tired of hearing enough comments about my hair, so I decided to just teal it out.
That's hands down the best look I've ever seen you have, AJ. Me and Gentry want to have that matching next time we all go to a game.
All right.
We have Mike also chiming in on the chat about the feed one more time, and I don't want to circle this again, but basically when it comes down to them pushing that as a national broadcast, even though it's clearly a Chicago feed, I think that's where we have the issue. I think everybody has that issue.
Yeah, it was a Chicago feed. But anyway, getting back to what I was saying, they're going to look at Torres, what he brings between coming back from 41 games and the deadline. I think that'll be it. If he's not moved before the deadline, they ride with him until they get as far as they do, and then that's it. They cut ties and say, thanks for playing, and what could have been. That's the thing, is what could have been.
Yeah, when he's played, he's been really good. It's just between freak injury and
chicken winging
suspension.
people's head.
Yeah.
Then now you've got Pavelski coming out and identifying some positive in the Sharks' loss to the Blackhawks. I mean, Pavs, I know you want to find a silver lining, but you know what? In my opinion, I think this is more of the rod and not the carrot kind of time.
Well, what did he point out? Did it say, or is it just generally?
Just generally.
Okay, because I don't think it was all negative. I mean, I think there was a lot of negative, but there were positives. And it's bringing. I don't think it's necessarily bad that they're brought back down to earth a bit, because when you're winning that often, sometimes you need to be reminded that you have some weaknesses.
Yeah.
Because I mean, right now everyone's talking. If you're talking about like real quick about basketball, everyone's acting like the Warriors are completely unbeatable. They're gonna like skate to 70 wins, no problem. But that's the thing about winning is people are like, oh well, there are no weaknesses. Well, as soon as you lose, then you remember, yeah, there's weaknesses. There's problems still. Got to work on that.
And just to go back to what I had said earlier, it's now confirmed by Kurz is that the Sharks have fallen to 0-4 when missing one of their top 4 D-men. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Going back to the Torres thing, because I didn't get to chime in on it.
Hurry the fuck up, man.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I'm the polite Canadian over
He's
here.
too polite.
He's talked all over.
Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
The thing with, honestly, to me, Torres, this is his last NHL contract. I don't see a team that's gonna take him next, like after when he goes with the suspension. I mean, what's his next suspension? A season?
Dude, do not assume that there is still a team in the NHL that is coached by John Tortorella. Do not assume that Torres cannot find a job.
But
also, I think
if Maxim Leperrier are both out of the league now, so I mean, there's precedent.
He's a better hockey player than either of them, and also I would say if he gets signed somewhere else, if it's possible, it's going to be a contract that's going to basically say you get suspended, we don't owe you another dime.
Yeah,
like you're done. And I don't know if that's possible to put that language in the contract. If it is, I think he'll get signed. If it's not, that's where I feel like he probably could be at the end of the road. But if there's a way for teams to protect themselves,
St. Louis Blues, you're needed on the Raffi Torres aisle. St. Louis Blues.
Yeah. Honestly, if we could get that into a contract, I wouldn't have a problem with us re-signing him.
I don't think you can get that into an NHL
yeah, I don't know. I tend to doubt it, but I mean, if he gets anything, it'll be a 1-year deal probably.
Yeah, or a PTO or something like that. I don't know.
Well, it's definitely going to be year.
I know you can structure it by games played though. So a 1-year contract where it's basically for every game you are suited up, we pay you.
I mean, I think the PA wouldn't let that fly.
Nah, the CBA is pretty ironclad when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah.
Bitches.
Okay. Yeah, I know that's possible in football. I wasn't sure about hockey.
So is there any kind of defenseman that's in retirement that played for Peter DeBoer that we want to try out?
No, but we all heard that Douglas Murray was in the building tonight. Who else is hoping it was because of a PTO?
Not this guy.
I was saying there's like traffic cones out in front of SAP they could audition for that bottom pairing.
Let the Scott Hannon rumors begin again.
Fuck you. Somebody put him on mute.
No. Somebody mute Eric.
Fire 2016 again.
Oh, that's it. Eric's done.
Yeah.
We're kicking off your own show, Eric.
You think about all those defensive picks. Like I've beaten into the ground before. Nobody expects you to go 1,000, but just the difference it would make if Doherty and or Petrecki would have panned out. I mean, what a goddamn difference.
Yeah, and this would have been where they would have been in their prime now.
Exactly.
Right now, and I am totally with you, AJ. I don't think that you'll get any argument from me as far as their drafting D-men and their record for their conversion rate for that. It's just horrible, because not only that, but I'm wondering if Petrecki and or Doherty had been through a better system, what they would have turned out. What if Detroit had their hands on either one of those two? I mean, where would they end up?
Who knows? I'm still
That's why
laughing about
I
the
feel
graphic that was tweeted out earlier tonight about Doug Wilson leading Chicago in like games played by a defenseman or
Goals scored.
goals scored by a defenseman. I just sit there and go, yeah, he was a great offensive weapon for Chicago on defense. The guy can't draft defensemen to save his fucking life. I don't get it, man.
And I that's why I keep thinking if they do miss the playoffs or if they're one and done, if a change is made, I mean, Wilson just seems so safe, but you have to wonder if maybe they will consider shaking up the farm system that's been the same way for a decade plus. I would hope they would think about it, but I mean, because maybe it's not Wilson's drafting. I mean, I think it might be part of it, but maybe a lot of it is just the development system is not good.
Yeah, and
when do we get the sweeping broom that comes in and says, okay, this isn't working, and it hasn't worked in a very long time. It's time to clean house down below.
This is L. Rob's job. This is Larry Robinson. I mean, he's the director of player development. I mean, where is his hand, his guiding light for the defenseman on the Barracuda?
Okay, I like this from the chat room. We need to pay Torres to knock Brown out. I like it.
Somebody
Can Torres play defense as well?
Oh,
I
don't understand.
He might be better than Matt Tennyson.
I don't understand.
I remember.
Like, how does he keep coming into the lineup? Like, how does every coach that comes through seem to just have this hard on for Mike Brown? I don't get it.
Dude,
because
I remember
superfluous adjectives like grit and toughness.
I remember hearing the exact same thing just a few short years ago about Ben Eager. Where it was
Ben Eager!
You hoped that Ben Eager, like when they signed Ben Eager, the first thing on my mind was that okay? So was that like for grit and toughness against the other teams, or was that for him? Was he brought into the locker room to personally kick Marlowe and Thornton's ass before every game?
Dude, Ben Eager in the Western Conference Finals when he's standing over Luongo after he scores the lone goal, and he's just like having himself a little party. Yeah. Oh my God.
And then you have guys like Alexei Semenov back when that would draw into the lineup for God knows what reason.
Yeah.
Just like some of these guys, like, why don't we just put in a random AHLer? They would be no worse. They would probably start less fights, I guess.
Patrick is bringing up an interesting point. Hasso, okay, so the team has signed a deal with the city to play in the tank for the next 10 years, right? We had that extension that was signed. For the most part, all that shit is locked in place. What would you think now that Hasso has his feet firmly entrenched in sports with SAP? You see it on the background of 49ers press conferences, obviously the SAP Center. He's locked all over the NHL. It seems like he bought the team just to get that inside track, and now that SAP is firmly, just married with sports analytics and whatnot, at this point, when do you think that Hasso says, yeah, okay, I got done what I wanted to, and maybe it's time to sell the Sharks and make a little bit of cash and get out of this before the season ticket base really says fuck this?
Well, the thing is, the SAP analytics were pretty heavily adopted in the NHL a long time, like many years ago. I've been asking around actually, because I have a lot of friends that work at SAP and all that, and it sounds like they've been pretty much in bed with the NHL for almost a decade now. So lately
it's got more publicity.
What we're seeing is a manifestation of what's been in the works for a long time. So I know, as Patrick's pet theory, that's the only reason why he bought his majority share. But I think it would have happened either way, to be perfectly honest. But I don't know.
Let me phrase it differently. How do you feel about an owner who's only allowed to be in the country 100 days out of the year? I prefer an owner that's more hands-on.
No, I mean, I know, because you can go from one extreme to the other, Jed York or Hasso Plattner, and really, I think the happy medium is somebody in the middle, somebody who's local, somebody who's grown up with the Sharks, and somebody, one of these tech guys who would come to games as a 20-year-old and really wants to see the Sharks do well in the Bay Area. And
see, a 20-year-old tech guy scares me because I feel like he's going to think that, oh, I want to do this, or his ego is going to be too big to not realize that it's not about him, it's about the success of the team that will eventually shine on him. I'm looking for someone like maybe a Mark Cuban kind of techie who has reached age where he knows that if the team succeeds, I'm not fucking done yet.
No, somebody who came to see the Sharks as a 20-year-old.
It shines on him, and that's all good. It makes him look good. What about Larry Ellison, huh? He failed with the Warriors.
Larry Ellison would meddle way too much, just from what I know of him. I agree with the idea. Honestly, I don't really care who the owner is and what they do, as long as they do two things. They hire an executive who knows what the hell they're doing. In this case, not Doug Wilson. They hire a good executive to run shit, and they write checks, and then they do that's.
And they spend to the cap.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. They write checks, and they hire someone who knows the sport to run operations, and they hold that person accountable. That's all an owner should be doing.
And then they look at actual sellout numbers every day, and that's all they, that's like, oh, okay, good, we sold that again. Good job.
And I think too, as far as like Hasso goes, I think because of his entrenchment, I think he probably has a pretty significant seat at the Board of Governors table now. And when you're talking about, when you come up to the next thing that happens when we don't play, I don't want to say it, but when you talk Hawks and Doves, yes, when you go to the whole Hawks and Doves conversation, I'm pretty sure you're gonna hear the Sharks are gonna be one of the Hawks. Like, they're gonna be sitting at the table with Jacobs and Snyder. Snyder, for example, is a perfect example of an owner we don't want, because you don't want someone who meddles that constantly.
Absolutely.
Maybe his connections with Spectre or NBC or whatever might help out with some broadcasting issues. But hey.
Uh-oh, guys, we actually have breaking news on the Twitter machine.
Uh-oh.
Comments coming out from Peter DeBoer. Quote, the Sharks felt the absences of Couture, Braun, and versus the world champs. Hashtag no fucking shit.
Yeah.
Really?
In other news, the sky is blue, water is wet.
And that was not the message I wanted to hear.
Power play at home. Oh wait, they finally changed that one. Never mind.
That's not the message I wanted to be hearing.
Say hashtag no shit, Sherlock.
All right, boys, let's wrap this shit up. Looking ahead, everybody, we wish you all a happy Turkey Day and a happy holiday. We have Calgary coming in, and I do believe we have another alumni to associate with. Is that correct? This Saturday, isn't it somebody? Is it Clo?
Ryan Clo.
Yeah, so we got Clo. We got Clo to drop the puck, and seeing that it is a CSN broadcast, chances are we actually will see Ryan Clo at some point.
Is everyone going to get to play the puck from the bench?
I think that would be a great way to honor him. I think we should let Mike Brown play the puck from the bench just once, because let's be honest, it's going to be the closest he sees to a breakaway again after tonight.
Oh, God.
But yes, Calgary on the horizon. Calgary, we've seen not doing that well. A little bit. We're still in first, correct?
Nope.
No, we're by 1 point.
By 1 point we are?
Yep.
Okay, so we're still in first in Pacific.
No, we're in the second by 1 point.
We're in second by 1 point.
Oh, who took over first?
LA.
With a shootout loss against Tampa Bay.
Fucking shootouts. I hate you motherfucking 3-point games. All right, so Calgary's on the horizon. The Sharks finally get a chance to see Johnny Hockey live and in person. If you get the opportunity, he is a fun player to watch. So we have that. In the middle of a massive 3-game homestand, if you can believe it. Calgary, and then of course we get to honor Patrick Marleau. Now I heard that they had mentioned something about Patrick Marleau's 1,000-point night tonight, but we had already heard that no, they were going to honor that versus Pittsburgh just to rub it in when they get here next week.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, they will
Yeah.
honor.
They did a little video with him tonight, and I guess they came out of the 10-minute break for it, and everybody stood up on their feet along with some of the Hawks fans. So that nice kudos to that. But yeah, I guess the whole pomp and circumstances will be Tuesday night in those beautiful heritage jerseys.
Alrighty. Well,
Cool.
AJ, what's your prediction for the game?
Calgary, I'll go 3-1 win, maybe a 4-2 win. I did have one comment tonight that I had saved because I thought, I say a lot of, outlandish shit, and I can get a little too much. But I saved one. I did not post it, but I feel comfortable with you guys, and the fact that I've had some Jameson, that I feel comfortable enough to say it now, what I had sent to Ian earlier. He knows what I said.
All right, I'll bite. What is it, AJ?
If you do remember, at one point, Kane got a penalty tonight, right?
Yeah.
Oh no.
And so I sent the
Might
tweet.
be the same thing Gentry said tonight too. Go
I
ahead.
sent the tweet.
Oh, no.
I sent the tweet directly to Ian, and I was like, "Oh, I should have sent this." I just put, "Hey, look at that! Kane's in the box," and this time he was actually invited. Too soon?
Oh.
Too soon? Is it okay to what did Gentry say?
Okay.
He said,
Okay, AJ.
he said something like, "Oh, he finally got penalized."
I finally got penalized.
Damn.
All right, Chris,
Oh,
what's your
okay.
prediction on the game?
I think they come out significantly angry against Calgary. I think they win 3-1. Pretty decisive win.
All right, Ian.
Yeah, we smoke Calgary. If we don't smoke Calgary, then I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I better see a 6-1 or 5-1 victory on.
Remember, boys, this is at home. We don't.
I don't
play
care.
those.
We're gonna kill Calgary. It's not the home that matters. It's the fact we don't have Braun.
Damn it! Take
That too.
their women and children. Burn Calgary.
Do you think we get Braun back? Here's your three
Yeah, he stayed a
questions.
day. I think so.
He stayed.
We get Braun back on Saturday. Do we get any type of a reason between now and then of why we saw no Hurdle or Wingles? Does Kurz or Pashelka or anybody follow up on this? Because I haven't seen anything on Twitter about, there's been plenty of post-game comments from DeBoer, from Pavelski about what happened tonight, but the only thing that I haven't seen from them on Twitter is where the hell were Wingles and Hurdle in the third period?
I think we might hear a little something, but other than that, I don't think it'll go too much. I think it's just a message sender. Eric, what's your prediction for the game, and do you have any additions?
That's a tough one because it is a Hockey Night in Canada game, guys. So don't forget they are on national TV, and yes, again, it's a 7 o'clock start, so you got to be prepared. I think they'll start out a little rough and tumble. They might take a little, half a period off, but I say there'll be a 3-2 Sharks win, and I'm thinking maybe they would start Stalock on Saturday night.
Not a chance.
Interesting call, but
Hit that shit! Hit it! Hit it!
yeah.
Don't you dare!
Like I said before, if we don't come out like gangbusters and really just lay into Calgary, I'm going to be very disappointed. And I want to see some major destruction at the hands of Calgary. So anyhow, well, any last words, guys?
I'll take one once you guys are finished.
Okay, Ian, I thought you had something that you wanted to.
Yeah,
to wrap
just-
up with?
Once the last
just-
word.
Wanted to remind everybody, obviously, to check out Pucknology, check out all our articles and stuff there. Also, again, guys, get rid of this home ice, away ice thing and look at the actual roster that plays the games, and I think you'll find your answers far more there. I'm good.
Okay. AJ, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
I will continue to blame the new goal song until things change.
Okay. Chris?
Yes.
And I will continue to blame AJ until things change.
Yes.
All right, Eric, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, as much
Sweep that.
as much as everything would like to blame me for tonight, I will say this: It is, since it is Thanksgiving and everything, and now I have some decent light. I wanted to say thank you to all four of you. We started this whole thing about a year ago, along with the site, and I can't be more appreciative to have you guys, along with everybody from Teal Tinted Glasses and everything, but you four specifically, thank you so much for, jumping onto this crazy ride that we've been doing, and appreciate everything you guys do for us.
Thank you, Puck Guy. And
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm tearing up a little bit.
it was so
Talk
heartfelt.
about yourselves. Give me a topic.
It was so verklempt, choked up here that I wanted to mute you during that, but I didn't.
I can't. Yeah.
Now, see, I was going to wait for somebody to interrupt me and be like, oh, wow, this is like Teal Tinted Glasses.
Oh,
Hey,
well,
speaking of Teal Tinted
damn,
Glasses,
really? Wow,
you-
let's throw
you
them under the
recorded
bus.
tonight.
No, you have to understand, when I was on there last week, Ewan was trying to get through everything, and Wendell just kept going, wait. Hey, guys, I just got a Sharks hat.
I
Okay,
did
okay,
that
back
to
to
him the
you,
week
Ian.
before.
All right.
Yes.
Well, we do want to give a shout out to our sister podcast, Teal Tinted Glasses. They do have a new podcast out tomorrow.
Tomorrow
Please
at
go-
some point. It might be a little late because of Thanksgiving, later than it usually is, but we recorded tonight. It will be out at some point tomorrow.
So yeah, definitely check them out. For all of your Sharks news and info, please go to Pucknology.net. We've got some great writers coming on. We've got some great articles already. If you haven't already, please subscribe using the subscribe button. I just want to say, again, thank you for everybody that tuned in tonight. Could have been better, but you know what? We'll look ahead, and we've got some great games on tap, and of course, we'll be here talking Sharks, and I think AJ Sharkey's saying goodbye as well. Have a happy Thanksgiving, and stay safe, everyone.